Good day, friends. Thank you tonight for joining us for the podcast Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. We discuss a litany of different topics, church issues, abuse, people who have become disenfranchised, things like that. But our main focus is reconciliation, healing, and forgiveness. We have a counseling continuum here where we offer counseling off air to our Wounded Hearts call in broadcast off air. But also, we have an exciting team works with us. Sister Lolita is a program director. Neil is a technical part of that. And of course, we have Brother Edwards. He passed on 2 months ago. Sorry to have him leave us. He was a blessing, but he handled other parts of the broadcast. And of course, Ken Probes. He's our senior person, and he gives us insight from days gone by. We have a host of exciting platform guests for the past year and a half, about 25 approximately ministers, pastors from across the country, and some out even farther than that. My name is Prince. I'm a licensed counselor and founder of Antioch Youth Center, retired. I want to thank our viewers for taking part in this endeavor. And again, we're trying to reach out to promote unity in families and in the church, and want you to join us in this most worthy endeavor. Our viewers want to thank you for listening. We get some exciting letters just about each week, and we have one today that it was so exciting to us. We want to read that today. And I think Sadulita has a copy of that letter she wants to read from one of our listeners from last week. But again, if you wish to write in, you can. Your letters are read, responded to, and we thank you for that very much. Is there a letter, please?
Yes, sir. Prince, your podcast has taken on a new listening level. Last Thursday, Shana was a blessing to my soul.
Yes,
She
yes.
was the epitome of God's will being established in our lives, even in adverse, lingering situations. It's like that song. When you come to the place where He's all you have, you will find He's all you need. Respectfully submitted, your faithful listener.
We thank you for those letters, friends. And again, they are read. And if they're good to make some changes, we're willing to do that too, because you're a part of this program, Ministers Reconciliation. And so we want to hear from you to make changes or bring on different people as a platform guest to do what we can to
Period.
ensure those three areas. We can be located on YouTube, Facebook, iHeart, Sitter, Amazon Music, Pandorian Review. We want to submit to other platforms also too. But tonight, if you want to contact us, you can. That number you can text in is 1-866-538-3664. 1-866-538-3664. If you want off-air counseling, you can to our Wounded Hearts telephone number, and that's 478-283-9093, 478-283-9093. You can email us also too at reach1, REEEEECHONE, at AOL.com. But tonight, we want to hear from you about this most important discussion. Shannon was here last week. A lot of good insight. Took a lot of notes from what she said. Very poignant things about forgiveness, reconciliation. But tonight, you can definitely chime in. And you can go to YouTube, Church of God in Macon, Georgia, and you'll see the live broadcast. Friends, the opinions that are expressed on this broadcast don't always agree with the staff people that are here. But we do want to talk about sensitive discussions and have people state their position and talk about it and seek out reconciliation and healing. That's our main focus here. Those three things: reconciliation, healing, and forgiveness within the Church of God. Some discussions are quite sensitive and will elicit listener and viewer discretion. But make no mistake, I'm risking being redundant. But again, our main focus is to implement and sustain those three things: forgiveness, healing, and reconciliation within the Church of God. Friends, we also want to let you know that we are reaching out to people. We've been praying about getting a wider group on to discuss these things. And next week, we'll have a pastor come on. The pastor was in some elements of division, and they were able to reconcile those works together. And they had division for years and years and years, but they've come back together in unity. We're going to find out what he did. He was the architect of it. I want to find out what he did, Brother Simpson, and be able to take some notes in how they did that. We're not going to mention names or dates or places, but just the nuance and the hues of how they were able to reconcile from division. So there is hope, even if there's been some division. So we want you to listen next week for that most exciting broadcast. But for tonight, we have another exciting broadcast. So, Lita, would you introduce our guest, please, tonight?
Yes, sir. We have with us Shana.
Hi.
We're happy to have you with us today. Shall we continue where we left off last week?
Sure.
Let's see. He's left home for the last time, and you're contemplating letting him back in.
Yes. Okay. So when we left off last time, we had been talking on the phone, and he had told me that he wanted to come back. He wanted to work things out, and he was done with his life with this other woman, and he wanted to come back home. So I was excited. I mean, I was obviously also hurt, but I wanted him to come back home. And I felt like God really opened up that door that wouldn't otherwise been open. And I realized that it was a big step, and I needed to make sure that I was responsible with what God had done. So I didn't want to, I had been praying for months for him to come back home, and I didn't want to um, suddenly say, no, you know what, I don't want to deal with this anymore. You can't come back. So
Sure,
I knew
sure,
that, God had opened that door, and I need to be responsible with it. So um, just like I had been praying before for him to come home, I started praying, Lord, show me what I need to do. How do I make this work? Um, I feel like it's a really complex thing. It wasn't really cut and dry, but
sure.
you know, mostly it was. Yeah, I knew there was excitement about him coming back, and I was happy for that. But I knew that when things settled down, there were still going to be
Mhm,
trust issues. There
mhm.
was going to be dealing with the
Right,
hurt of the rejection.
right,
Just day to day, like,
right.
how are we going to get through this? How are we going to make sure this doesn't happen again? So um, I had a lot of concerns. So I took it to God. I just took it to God. I said, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what to
Yes,
do. But he showed me, and he, over the course of many weeks, he walked me through that process. And, it wasn't something that happened overnight, but eventually we decided to have him come home, and, um, we continue to work out our issues. But yeah.
You mentioned the trust issue. So now not only are you opening your family and your home again, but you're opening yourself to the hurt, and you have to kind of face those things. How did you deal with that, Shanna?
Um, well, it was hard. I didn't want to be the wife who was constantly worrying about, okay, why is it taking you
mhm,
so long to come home?
mhm,
Who is it that's calling you on your phone? Who
mhm.
are you talking to? What's happening during the day when I'm not there? Like, I didn't want to be, for one, I didn't want to have to worry about it, but also I didn't want to have to put him through that as well. He was
Mhm.
making a commitment to come back, and I didn't think that that would be fair. So I had to address, I went to God with this. I had to address, okay, how am I going to trust that this isn't going to happen again, that he really wants to come back? How am I going to deal with this? And I really felt like God was showing me quite a few things because, well, for one, okay, so it wasn't my sin that caused this,
Mhm.
but even though it wasn't my sin, God showed me that there was still opportunity for improvement in my life. There were things that I could do to kind of, to help him, but also help myself. So, okay, so God was showing me that just as he had given me mercy, I need to be merciful with my husband. And that was hard. I mean, like, I was almost upset about that because I felt like, here we've been through all this pain, all this rejection, all this hurt, and then I'm excited he's coming back. But now I felt like God was saying almost to kind of let it go. And it almost felt unfair, but I had to just trust him. I had to trust the process. And I mean, my husband and I had to work through some things too. We talked about a lot of things and talked it over, but I just felt like God had to show me how to let go. I'm a control freak. I want things to be in order. I want to make sure that, certain things are set, and that way I feel comfortable. And I couldn't do that in this scenario. I couldn't control what he was going to do. I had to learn to let go of some of that and just be vulnerable. And that was something that I mean, God had to help me through that. That wasn't something I could do on my own for sure.
Good answer.
Was talking easy?
That's a good question. It wasn't. Even though I like to have control of things, I don't like confrontation. And so I think this is why we ended up somewhat in this position. And I didn't confront him earlier because I knew something was going on and I let it go because I was afraid of the confrontation. I was afraid that I was going to have to address what was going on. So once he came back, I knew that okay, we have to talk. I can't ignore things. Like, I need to bring things up, even if I think it's going to be painful,
Yes.
even if I think it's going to upset him or other people. And so we had to talk a lot, and it was hard. I mean, there were times it was really good. I felt like it was really healing. And then there were times when I felt like, did I make a mistake here? But overall, it got a lot easier as we went through. Yeah.
When you were entering into the type of communication that brought healing, when do you think was the turning point?
Gosh, that's a hard question too. I don't know that there was necessarily a real turning point. But I do think that over time it became evident that we were making progress, and that, I think you get to a point where you say, first it was like, is this even going to work? Is he going to decide to leave again? Is he going to say, you know what, this is too hard and I don't want to deal with this? Because he could.
Sure.
But I think you get to a point where you say, wow, we've really come a long way. And I think we might actually make this work, and I think that when you get to the point where you can both say our relationship is stronger now than it was even before any of this happened, then you know that, okay, we're in the right place. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Wow.
Friends, if I can interrupt briefly, if you're just tuning in, this is Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches podcast that comes on each Thursday. We need to remember, if you're disenfranchised, maybe you left the church hurting, whatever your case might be, we're here for you. We're not a church, but we're a support system to those who've been wounded. Situations do occur at times. You're not forgotten. We're praying for you. We want to reach out to you and to have an open platform that we can discuss reconciliation and healing within the church. So this is for you. This is your podcast. We're reaching out to you to submit to you these excellent things that God has for you. Back to our program director and our guest, please.
Shana, when you expressed before a time when the Lord gave you a scripture in Job.
Oh, You're really putting me on the spot, and I'm so nervous. I'm not
You're
even
doing
sure.
you're doing excellent. You're doing excellent. When Job prayed for his friends,
Uh, yeah. Oh, um, was this a specific something that we talked about, Lolita? Was this a specific incident?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
You may
ma'am.
have to help me along a little bit.
Okay. There was a time when there was a problem. You weren't feeling good at the time, remember? And then God,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Um, I think I know what you're referring to, but
Yes, ma'am.
um, I'm sorry. I'm so nervous. Sometimes it's hard, but I'm afraid I'm going to get off track. Um,
you're fine. You can go off track. It's no problem. This is people love you and they want to hear from you. So take your
okay.
time and feel free. Relax. Take a deep breath and relax. Trust me.
Okay.
I'm nervous
Sometimes.
too. I'm nervous all the
Okay.
time. So go right ahead. You're not by yourself
Okay.
and you're doing just
um.
fine. Trust me.
Yeah, Lolita, I don't know. You're gonna have to help me with this one because I'm not sure
Okay.
what time you're talking
I'm
about.
talking about the time you were really sick and you kept going to God because you were so sick.
Oh,
And then he gave you Job, that chapter in Job when Job was
gosh.
supposed to pray for his friends.
I guess I don't remember exactly which one you're
Okay.
talking about. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. And then he brought to mind that young woman and
Oh, yes.
mhm,
Okay, and how I needed to pray for her. Okay.
Right,
yes.
right, right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah. God definitely prompted me that I needed to pray for the other woman, and oh, I can't even express how difficult that was at first. It actually took me a while when God was showing me that I needed to pray for her. Um, it took me a while to even be able to do that. I really had to mentally process that. And I think I even remember coming home one time and just kind of yelling out loud, like, God, why are you making me do this? Like, it just almost felt like torture to have to pray for someone who had hurt me so badly. I mean, she had been a friend of mine at one point. So
Wow, wow, wow,
this
wow,
was something that
wow,
was painful. But
wow.
um, I did. I trusted God. I trusted his process. He knows he has a better plan than I do. So I did it. And
Mhm.
yeah, it was, at first, it was, I didn't even really know what to pray for. I knew that I needed to pray for her, but I didn't even really know what direction to go in. And then over time, I realized that she was hurt too. I mean, she was a broken person too. And,
Oh, yes, that's right.
um,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
you know, I just
yeah.
had to pray for her situation. Um, I don't know all the details of her life, but I knew that she needed God in her life too. So over time, overdoing that, it was hard at first, but I mean, it did get easier. I don't know that it was ever really 100% easy, but I mean, I still, at times, I even still pray for her. I still think of her because I can't imagine the hurt that she probably went through when he had to leave her. So, um, yeah, it was a tough process, but it was definitely healing. Um, for me, I mean, it really helped me get over. I didn't want to have bitterness. I didn't want to, have that hanging over us. Like, I felt like that could be a problem, and I wanted to make sure that that didn't exist.
Any questions from our listeners?
Well, we got a comment from Mr. 313. She said, "You are a virtuous woman, Shana."
Oh,
Wow.
thank you.
When when were you able to exhale?
Mm. Um, I think that is a tough question too. I think that when my husband and I were able to look back and say, we've gotten through this. We're better because of it. I think when we realized that our marriage was now stronger than when all this started, I think was kind of when I was like, okay, I can relax. I can let go of this a little bit and not be so nervous. I mean, not to say that, you're still not careful and you're not cautious and you're not, we still work on a relationship.
Sure,
But
sure.
I think at that point it was like, wow, we really got through this.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Any questions from our listeners?
Yes, Carrie Ann asks Shanna, knowing what red flags to look for. If you saw red flags in a friend or even your own child's relationship, would you say something, or would this be something that they would have to see for themselves?
Good question.
Mhm.
Um, I think you kind of need both. I think
Hmm.
number one, you need to trust your own intuition. I think God gives
Yes,
us discernment, and I think that you need to, when you have that feeling, you need to give it a place. It may mean that there's nothing going on, and it just may mean that something in your relationship needs work. But I also think that it's good to have a good support system. If I wouldn't have had that, I don't know that I would have been as far along as I was, because I had friends and family who were saying, okay, something's not quite right here. And I think it was helpful for me because I know that Satan wants to make you feel like you are isolated and all alone. And
sure,
that's at
sure.
times when I would have those thoughts, I'm like, is something going on? Is he doing something that he shouldn't be doing? And then I think, well, maybe I'm just crazy or whatever. And, to have friends and family say, well, you know what, I think your concerns are valid and you need to look into that. I think that was helpful.
Getting
Well, we
feedback,
have
sure.
a few more questions here. Larry Flew Ellen asked, how long did it take you to forgive and forget?
Hmm. Um, well, I think it took, I, I should back up. Before he even came back home, I had to learn to forgive. I started that process. And I think that was something that God was working on me um, before he even came back. Because I think if I hadn't have started that, I don't think I would have been in a place where I could say, you can come back home. But I think for us to really get through that forgiveness, probably several months, I would say maybe 5 or 6 months. And then as far as to forget, I don't think either of us ever forget. We still talk about it, and we talk about it not to bring up, to make either one of us feel bad, but we both
Right,
talk about it in order
right,
to make it easy to keep that door open, that if there's
right,
concerns,
right,
we can communicate that.
right, right. Very good.
One more
Mhm.
question, Shanna. Mr. 313 asks, do you trust him 100% now?
Um, I do trust him. This is a good question. I was thinking about this last night as I was kind of preparing for tonight. Um, I do 100% trust him, but I have to trust my own feelings as well. So if I
Mhm.
were to see anything ever again, I say, okay, I'm not going to push that back. So just like I trust him, I have to trust myself, and I
Right,
have to trust
right,
God too,
right,
that he's
right,
going to, show me these things, and I'm going to
right,
say, hey, wait, there's something
right,
going on here. We need
right,
to address this.
right.
Very good.
Very good.
Very
Hmm.
good.
Okay, we're back home. So when did you all start going out as a family again?
Okay, so this one took a little while because we have kids that, okay, so my daughter, she was grown at the time, moved out. My son was a teenager. Um, I think he was a little bit more, I guess, open to having his dad come back, and he readily accepted our roles again. And I think it was easier for him than my daughter. My daughter, I think she felt a little bit of rejection, and that it took her a little while. But
Hmm.
I would say it probably took us a few months before we we were all comfortable and we didn't have that feeling like we were all kind of on our on our toes a little bit, where we kind of, felt like at ease with everything. Yeah.
Mhm. Very good.
Was your family supportive? Both sides of the family supportive?
Yes. We are very blessed to have a close family. Everybody's
Hmm.
very supportive. We
Hmm.
live close. My parents live next door. His parents live on the other side, so we're a very close family. um,
That's
but yes,
close. I agree.
yes,
Yeah,
it is
okay.
close, and I think some people that would make them very nervous, but for our family, that's perfectly normal. And everyone was very supportive. That Christmas that he was gone was difficult. I had my parents
Wow.
and his parents
Wow.
over, and
Wow.
I think more than uncomfortable, it was just if we were all just sad because we missed him. We missed having our usual family. So I think having a supportive family really helps a lot.
Our time is just about gone. One more question for our guest.
When you say the family wanted him back and you wanted him back, there's a love that seems to be evident that oftentimes when a person has been so hurt that it dissolves. Can you tell us how yours was maintained?
Mhm.
Mm.
Wow.
Um, for me personally, it was 100% God, and the only
Amen.
way I can describe it is
Amen.
just that I understand that the love of God and how much He loved me even through all the crazy stuff that I've done in my life.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think He expects us to reciprocate that, just like forgiveness and mercy. I think that's where the love came from for sure. It had to come from God. It had to.
Any more questions from our listeners?
Yes, I have a very good question from Carrie Ann. She says, I'm not a fan of confrontation either, but I do believe everyone should be able to say their piece and get closure. If the other woman were watching, what would you say to her?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's good because I don't like confrontation.
Right,
um,
right.
you know what? I would tell her, number one, I would tell her that I have forgiven her because I know I think a lot of people have guilt of things that they've done and wondering how others feel about them. And I think I would want her to know I have forgiven you, that I don't hold that over you. I've let that go, and that I've been praying for you. I don't know what's going on in her life, but I hope that she finds God and that she can begin to heal because I know that she probably is a broken person too. Um, but that I don't hold any bitterness towards her at all.
Wow, friends, our time is beyond. We went beyond time tonight, but we just had to because of your wonderful questions and Shanna's. We have one more question coming in. Let's take that before we
Oh,
go.
no, no question, but it is a comment from Shay Perry. He
Okay.
said, the love of
Okay.
God is the only way you can get through it. Thank you for your bravery in discussing this.
Yeah, Shanna,
Thank
you're
you.
brave. We
Exactly.
thank God for your
Yeah.
disclosing here, exposing yourself, but you've been a blessing. We've had about 5 or 6 phone calls coming in, and I've been helped also too. You made a lot of different points, and we thank you so much. Dear one, this is podcast Wounded Hearts is for Church of God, by Church of God. I want you to know that there's help for you. We know in the marriage, statistical speaking, 30% of marriages end in divorce here in America. So if that's your situation, marriage issues, you can reconcile like Shanna did. She gave some very good points on that. Good
Yeah.
question, my sister Lolita. And our focus is to support you in that process. If you're hurting tonight, we are here for you, and problems are there to be solved. So again, we thank Shannon tonight for those wonderful comments, Sister Lolita for those questions, Sister Tennille for technical activities. So again, next week, I want you to come and hear the broadcast. We're going to be interviewing a pastor about 30 years, and he was in division, but he took steps to correct that. We're going to get his insight on what he did, what his burden is, and how they're enjoying unity now. So we thank God for that and for our guest tonight. May the Lord bless you. Amen.
Amen.